Salvete discipuli, hello 8th grade, and welcome to our lesson on prepositions for the day. So we're going to be learning about some prepositions. I've been saying I was going to do this for a while and finally getting around to it. So let's jump right in. Okay, so prepositions. Brief review of English grammar really quickly. And what prepositions do in English and in Latin is prepositions show the relation of one word to another. And these are typically going to be the relation between one noun with another noun, sometimes a pronoun too. So that's how prepositions work, right? So for example, we have a sentence, the dog is near the house. This preposition near is showing where the dog is in relation to the house. And in Latin, you'll see this is canis est prope villam. So here's the canis, and prope is that preposition that means near. So prepositions are going to be the same in Latin as they are in English, essentially. I remember learning a preposition song to the tune of like Jingle Bells when I was in high school, where we had to like memorize all of the prepositions, or most of them anyway. Latin has fewer prepositions than English does, or at least, so a lot of words that we use as prepositions in English aren't necessarily used as prepositions in Latin. So there's a little bit of difference there, but today we're going to be focusing on the prepositions that we've already seen in our stories, and then ones that we're going to see that more frequently. So there's more prepositions than the ones we're focusing on today, but the ones we're focusing on are kind of the more common ones that are going to be used in our textbook. Now, in Latin, prepositions are always going to be in front of the noun or the pronoun that they're modifying. So the preposition re is here, and it's modifying this noun, house, or villam in Latin. This noun is considered the object of the preposition. And together you have the preposition and the object of the preposition, and that's a prepositional phrase. And this is important grammatically. Latin prepositions are going to take either the accusative or the ablative case. Now, we haven't learned the ablative case yet, but we have seen it with prepositions. And this is one of the more common functions of the ablative case that we're going to see for the time being is as an object of a preposition. The accusative case we've mostly seen as direct objects, but it can also be the object of a preposition like we see here with villam. Right, villam here is an accusative acting as the object of the preposition prope. Okay. Now there are a couple of prepositions that can take both the accusative and the ablative, and the meaning might change slightly from one case to the other. And I'll point those out because we are learning a couple of those today. All right. So let's jump into our prepositions. I already said we haven't officially learned the ablative case, but we have seen prepositions that take the ablative. There we go. I will post these slides on Google Classroom separately as well, so you can always go back and take notes if you need to, if I'm moving too fast for you to take notes in the video. Now, starting off with prepositions that take the accusative case, and I do want you guys to take notes on these and write these down. Some of them we've learned already, some of them we haven't officially learned yet, but do write them all down. You can write them down while we're going through the video, or you can go back afterwards and look at the slides and take notes on them. Whatever works best for you. But we have ad. Ad is one we have seen before. This is our preposition that means to or toward. It shows motion towards something, okay? And this is a very, very common one. And again, this will take the accusative case, which is the same case as our direct object. So it's going to have in the singular that M ending, right, for our accusative case, like we saw with villam. Circum. Circum means around. And we've seen this one sort of in words before other words. So like circumspecto, or circumspectat is the form we've seen, is our verb that means to look around. So we see this in combination with other words and compound words. But circum we also see in English, right? The circumference of a circle is going around the circle, or to circumnavigate. That one's probably less frequently used, but to circumnavigate, navigate comes from navigo, meaning to sail in Latin. So it means to kind of travel around, sail around. And then we have in. In, we've seen, although we actually have seen in at this point as a preposition with the ablative case. And this one, so it means something a little bit different with the ablative than it does with the accusative. So when in, the preposition takes the accusative case, it's going to mean into or onto. So again, this is kind of motion towards, motion in, kind of motion in a forward moving direction is often with the accusative case, kind of a common thing. So in plus an accusative noun means into or onto. It means something slightly different with an ablative noun, and we'll do some practice with this. All right, per. Per is our preposition that means through. So we've seen this when we've seen people walking per viam, right, through the street. So I think this has popped up a few times in our stories. And then we have post. Post means after or behind. We've seen postquam, meaning after, in sort of more like a storytelling sense. So this post is going to mean more of like a physical placement of something, right? Like in a line, this person is after that person or behind that person. It's more of that sort of a sense. And then prope, this was my example I used on the previous slide. Prope means near. And again, these all take the accusative. And then one more, and this one, sub, like in, can take either the accusative or the ablative, and it does have a slightly different meaning when it takes the accusative versus the ablative. So sub means under, and when it's with the accusative case, when it's with a noun with the accusative case, it's going to mean, it's going to typically be used with verbs of motion, right? So like he is walking under the overpass or something like that. So it's motion of movement underneath something in that sort of a sense. And it's a slightly different meaning when it takes the ablative. So again, there's more than this. These are just kind of the main ones we've been seeing in our stories and that we will be seeing in our stories. So these are the ones I would like you to focus on for the time being. And again, these are all of our prepositions that take the accusative case. So the next page, we're going to see prepositions that take the ablative case. And I'll kind of talk a little bit about that. So we have a or ab. I'm not sure if we've really seen this one that much yet, but a or ab means from or away from. Think of words like absent, right? If you're absent. We see this with our absum, abese, meaning to be absent, to be away. Absum, it's ab, our preposition ab, meaning away from, and then sum, a preposition to be, right? I am away. So nice little kind of compound verb there. So a or ab motion, it means from or away from. And then we have cum. This one we started seeing more often. I think this was a vocab word in chapter stage 6 or stage 7. So this one we've started seeing already. Cum means with. And again, this will take the ablative case. And I'll talk a little bit about the endings. So our accusative endings, right? We've at this point really only seen the singular accusative, which is that M ending. The ablative endings, these ones, there's a few very different options, but sometimes it'll be a long A if it's that first declension feminine nouns, right? Like in Willa, right? Grumio est in Willa, right? So that takes that long A. That's an ablative. Or cum caecilio and cum metella with a long A. So caecilio with that long O and metella with that long A. That was in our story last week. The friends were dining with Caecilius and with Metella, and it was Caecilio et Metella with a long A, though. That long A tells you it's ablative and not just your normal nominative. And then for Caecilius or words that end in US, it's going to be that long O instead. De means concerning or about or down from. So a couple of different definitions for this one, and it'll just kind of depend on the context of the sentence that it's in as to which one makes most sense. So you can use this to when you're talking about someone or about something. Also, you can use it as referring to, oh, he's coming down from the mountain, things like that. I think we saw this when they were having the theater. The play was in town, and the shepherds or farmers or someone came down from the mountain, I think was a sentence from a few chapters ago, if any of you remember that. And this is one that we have seen a few times, and this has confused a few people. We have a or x. And I forgot to mention this with the and but and and a and x, there's two forms here. The first form, or a, is what will be used before a noun that starts with a consonant. And then ob or x, those forms are going to be used before a noun that starts with a vowel. And that's the only difference there. And that's more of a flow of the language kind of thing. So if you're saying he's walking out of the atrium, it would be ex atrio. But if it's out of the dining room, right, it would be a triclinio. So it's more of just a flowing how the language flows, because a atrio, it's kind of too many vowel sounds that flow. It's harder to split them up. So that's the only difference between those two. So a or x means out of or from, and this, we've seen the verb exit, exeo, exire, meaning to go out or to leave. It's related to our word exit in English. So the X form is a bit easier to recognize that. It's just knowing that the A, that just E by itself, means the exact same thing. Okay. And then we have in, which again, we already saw can be used with the accusative case to mean into or onto. When it takes the ablative case, which is the way we've seen it mostly up till this point, it's going to mean in or on, right? So grumio est in atrio. Grumio is in the atrium, versus, right, grumio in atrium ambulat. Grumio walks into the atrium. So slightly different meanings. In with the ablative is more of a static, right, placement. In with the accusative is motion towards something. So try and keep those separate. Usually, again, the context of the sentence itself should make it fairly obvious which one makes the most sense. So it shouldn't be too difficult. Sine means without. I don't know that we've seen this one yet. We might have once or twice. But again, just means without. And then our last one is sub again. And we saw this with the accusative case, and it can also take the ablative. So with the accusative, remember sub meant more motion underneath something. When it takes the ablative case, it's more of that static location. So kind of a similar thing going on with in and sube. When they take the accusative, there's usually motion involved. And when they take the ablative, it's more of a static location. So sub means under in both ways. It's just going to be a slightly different connotation depending on if it's going with a verb of motion or if it's more of just a static location. All right, so those are all the prepositions we're learning for now. Like I said, there are more. The ones that I left out are, excuse me, ones that are not used as frequently, or they're not really used in our textbooks. So these are the ones that we've seen, that we're starting to see more often, that I want you guys to make sure that you're really familiar with so that you know how they work. Okay? All right. Let's do a little bit of practice for my remote students. And if you have any questions about this, please let me know. I'm going to have a little worksheet on Google Classroom, just kind of with some exercises. So try to see after taking this lesson, after kind of taking notes, if you can figure that out. If you have any issues, let me know. I'm more than happy to kind of set up a Zoom if you need a little bit more help with this. All right, so silly little exercise, ubi est canis. Where is the dog? So we're going to practice our prepositions. Where is the dog in relation to the house? So willa with the long A would be the ablative form for house, and willam with an M is going to be the accusative. So where is the dog? If you haven't, at this point, pause the video, go back, and make sure you have all of your prepositions written down with what they mean, whether they take the accusative or the ablative, so that you can participate in this video practice, because usually I'm doing this in class where I get the repeat back at me and things like that. So you guys just kind of have to do this on your own. So willam for the accusative, willa with a long A for the ablative, and then pick the preposition that is going to work best to show where the dog is in relation to the house. So ubi est canis. For motion towards or away from, if there's motion involved, use ambulat, our verb meaning walks, right? So the dog walks away from, or the dog walks into, or something like that. So use ambulat. Otherwise, use est, is. So ubi est canis. So take a look at your prepositions. Which one might work best for where the canis, where the dog is in relation to this villa, this house. So ubi est canis, the best preposition would be canis est prope villam. So prope meaning near, so the dog is near the house, and prope takes the accusative, so it's going to be villam with that M ending. All right, ubi est canis. There should be question marks on these, and I forgot to put the question marks. Ubi est canis, so take a second, look at your notes, see if you can think. Ubi est canis. Canis est in villa, with that ablative. Canis est in villa. The dog is in the house. Ubi est canis. A little animation with that one. So remember, this is a verb of motion, so we want to use ambulat. So canis ambulat, although we typically will have the verb at the end. Which preposition? Where is he going? Canis in villam ambulat. So we have in again, but remember when it's with the accusative showing motion into, it's going to take the accusative. So in villam ambulat. Ubi est canis. Take a look at this arrow, figure out where the canis is going. What preposition works the best? Canis circum villam ambulat. So the dog walks around the house. And if you're putting the verb before the prepositional phrase, that's okay. That's more of an English word order, but it's not the end of the world. It's more of I wanting you guys to practice getting the prepositions correct with the correct forms of the nouns, whether it's accusative or ablative. So circum villam is the part I'm most concerned about here, right? He's going around the house. Ubi est canis. Right, so which preposition might work here? We have canis. E villa ambulat. So e villa ambulat, right? The dog walks out of the house. And again, a or x takes the ablative. Ubi est canis. Some more animation here. There's some motion involved, so maybe that'll help you. And this house is supposed to be sort of floating. So pretending this house is floating up in the sky. And this dog, where is the dog going? Where is the dog walking? Canis sub villam ambulat. So the dog is under the house, but he's walking under the house. There's motion. So in this case, we're going to have sub take the accusative villam. So canis sub villam ambulat. And then ubi est canis. In this one, he's just standing still. He is not moving. So keep that in mind for whether you want it to take the accusative or the ablative. Look at your notes. Canis sub villa. So canis est sub villa with that long A ablative. So the dog is under the house. So this is more of that static location. He's not moving necessarily. He's just under the house. And that's all the practice I have in this video for you guys. So make sure you have your notes on your prepositions. Hopefully you enjoyed this kind of silly little practice exercise here. I've got a worksheet on Google Classroom for you all, so make sure you check that out. It's not due until next Monday, same as all of your assignments. So assignments for the week are due next Monday. You've got a couple translation exercise or translation passages. So one of them is just on Google Classroom, and one of them I will have the video lessons like I usually do. So check out the video lesson for that translation passage as well. That'll be up on Google Classroom and the links will be on the Flex grid. So if you have any questions about prepositions or you're still confused, let me know. I'm more than happy to help you out with any of that. Otherwise, best of luck on your assignments this week, and I will see you next time. Wale te diskipuli.